The revolution will be live.
Can you stand at the podium and guarantee the American people they'll never hear Donald Trump utter the N-word on a recording in any context?
I can't guarantee anything, but I can tell you that the president addressed this question directly. I can tell you that I've never heard it.
Welcome back to AM Joy. I'm Al Sharpton, in for Joy Reid. This week, Donald Trump's own press secretary couldn't guarantee that a tape of Trump using the N-word isn't out there. But do we really need a tape considering some of the past statements Mr. Trump has made?
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Joining me now is Toure, host of the Toure Show, and Virginia Republican Senate candidate Corey Stewart. Let me go to you first, Corey. If, in fact, there is a tape with Donald Trump using the N-word, would you then say that he is a racist? And now this is something that has been raised by a black woman who was the highest profile person in his administration. So it's not those of us that you call on the left raising this. This is someone who was his liaison to us that has said that she's heard this tape. If it exists, what would be your position as a candidate for Senate in Virginia?
Well, look, first of all, Reverend, thanks for having me on the show, but the truth is there's no evidence at all that it exists. And even if it existed, the fact is, or didn't exist, the fact is you've already proclaimed him, you and the rest of the press have already proclaimed him a racist. If he wants to secure the border, it's about race. If he wants to ensure that our NFL players are respecting our country, it's about race. If he wants to cut taxes, it's about race. Everything, according to the left-wing media, is always about race.
Okay, but
you've already proclaimed him to be a racist
Mr.
no matter
Stewart,
what he does.
Mr. Stewart, I am well aware of my position on Mr. Trump and race. I asked you your position.
That you are.
And I'm asking you about Corey Stewart, who's running for office. What your position would be if the tape exists. I know my position.
Yeah, the tape doesn't exist. The president's already said there's no tape of him doing that.
So you won't even say
exist
if it does
because he's
exist.
not a racist.
Okay, Toure, the fact is that this came from, as you know, Omarosa Manigault was chosen by Mr. Trump to represent him as a liaison to the black community. Hence, Senator my convention, reached out to many of us many times, went to the black journalists and all. She's the one saying she heard the tape. This is a former Trump supporter. So this is not me saying he's a racist. Everybody knows my position on Mr. Trump. And Corey Stewart's right about that. We're talking about her saying there's a tape.
I want to go back to the beginning of the segment where you play Sarah Sanders. Sarah Huckabee Sanders lies every single day on behalf of Donald Trump. This issue she will not lie about. On this, she's like, well, we don't know, I can't guarantee. I mean, if he's on tape saying the N-word, then her lying about it would be the least of their problems. But even given that, she's like, I'm not lying about that. I don't know. We'll find out together. But look, we don't need to hear him saying the N-word to know he's racist. He has one of the longest resumes of racist behavior and rhetoric in this entire country, not just among politicians, but just among people. This is the king of birtherism. This is the man who's attacking the NFL constantly. This is a man who stands on black people's necks so that he can appear taller to white people. White nationalism and white entitlement were at the basis of his campaign. We don't need any more evidence. The jury is in.
Now, Mr. Stewart, you're running for senator in a state that has a large black population, and you and I disagree, but we invite you on. And let me ask you something. Since you have so many black citizens in Virginia, and you're offering them to be their senator, how do you define racism? I mean, you say everybody on the left always yells race. You call me a race beta. How do you define racism?
You know, I got to tell you something. As I go around Virginia, all right, okay, all right. I'm not trying to be condescending here. I'm just trying to explain what I've seen out there. And that is that as I go around Virginia, people are not obsessed with race the way that you are and the rest of the left-wing media is.
But that's why I'm asking you to define racism.
But does he think racism exists
but
at all?
Wait a minute. I want him to tell me what is racism. Do you believe there is a thing called racism? What is it?
Of course. I mean, it's using race as a basis to treat somebody differently in a very negative way, the way that you would treat somebody else of a different race.
All right, now, so do you believe that still exists? Because we still see, even in a strong economy, blacks are still doubly unemployed to white. We still see in the criminal justice system any number of studies, even under Republicans, that we're sentenced more. So when you say this obsession on the left with race, if we are, according to data, even by Republicans' administrations, discriminated against, and you happen to be born black or brown, you're not obsessed with it, you are it. You have to deal with your reality.
Well, let me ask you this then. We have a president that, because of his economic policies, the economy is booming along, and we have the lowest unemployment rate ever for African Americans in this country. And you're still calling this president a racist?
It is still double that to whites. It is certainly better under this economy, and it started under President Obama. He inherited the trend, but we're still doubly unemployed to white. I'm glad you brought it up. What is Trump's program then to bring that down where we are no longer doubly unemployed? How does he close that gap?
Well, I'll tell you that he's closing that gap. He's raising everybody up.
How?
You know, government
How is
programs...
he closing the gap? Is he going to have affirmative action? I mean, what is going to be the way you equalize it?
Everybody's going up.
But if everybody's equally raised, we're still doubly unemployed. If it's equal raise.
All right, so let me put out a couple of statistics out there for you. Real wages are growing.
I asked you for
real
a plan.
wages.
You know, Torrey, I'm
trying to explain
it. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I wish you would explain.
I love being on your show, but I wish you'd let me talk once in a while. All right.
You have the floor.
Look,
explain to me how we're going to make equally those that can get jobs in this country. You have the floor.
You know, the thing is that we're just trying to raise everybody up. We want to raise everybody up, everybody's income. It's not a difference that matters among race. The fact of the matter is, when real wages are rising at the fastest clip in 20 years, working class wages, that has a disproportionate positive impact for working class Americans, especially African Americans and Hispanics and other minorities who have a disproportionate share of those working class jobs. That's what the president is doing by standing up to our foreign trade partners, bringing back manufacturing, bringing back good jobs. Everybody is benefiting.
But it does not result, Torrey,
for benefiting everybody is beyond me.
I gave him the floor. He wouldn't answer. It does not result in how you explain that we're still doubly unemployed to white. I mean, whether it's 3 to 6, whether it's 1 to 2, whether it's 10 to 20, we are still doubly
is that
unemployed.
President Trump's fault?
Wait a minute, Corey. You wanted the floor. You had it. It's Torrey's
With
time.
Corey's presentation, part of what I hear is part of why black people are not dealing with the GOP at this point. He's talking about that we are obsessed with race, right? And he has this colorblind approach that everybody will rise. And we know that's not the case, right? This is a white supremacist country, and we have to deal with that every day in everything, in how we relate to the police and how we relate to jobs and how we relate to the criminal justice system, in everything. And when you talk about we are obsessed with race, what we hear is, I don't want to deal with race. I want to not talk about it. You should not talk about it. And that is...
They don't have to talk about it. They're not the ones that are
But that is
disadvantaged.
offensive to us in that you're just going to not deal with it at all. We have to deal with it. And you will never have more than a sliver of the black community voting for you as long as you're talking about we are obsessed with race, which is a way of saying stop talking about it. Stop telling me to stop talking about it. This is an incredibly important thing that affects my life. And I understand as a straight white male, that doesn't affect your life. But if you want to represent other people, including black Virginians, then you need to deal with what is actually affecting their lives.
Hey, Tory, you don't actually know very much about me. I represent one of the most, in fact, the first majority-minority county in Virginia, in Northern Virginia. The second largest locality in that state, and it's a majority-minority county. I would not have been elected 4 times countywide, if not for the strong support from the African-American community and other minorities in my community. And you know the reason they vote for me is because they understand that I'm out there for everybody, supporting them, supporting their schools, supporting their roads, improving their economy. And the fact of the matter is, this is good for everybody. And when you guys in the media, you're in a media bubble out there, Tory, and you just don't understand that most Americans out there don't care, and they don't care that much about race. You guys are so obsessed with it that you're blinding out other issues that are a lot more important.
Corey, let me say this. I had you on my show, and I went and preached in Charlottesville, and I visited your county, and hundreds of blacks came out and told me that they are concerned about race, and they are not getting the same treatment of others in your county. So maybe you're not talking to everybody when you're going around Virginia. Maybe the reason that you're not hearing a lot about race is you're not talking to a lot of people that have a different race. Couldn't that be the case, Corey?
No, it's not. In fact, I've been visiting hundreds of people at state fairs, in shopping malls, in grocery stores, in schools. I'm talking to normal people in Prince William County. I don't know if you were there.
So you're saying the people that go to church, you're saying the people that go to church in Virginia are not normal people?
Yesterday, I visited the mosque in my community. I visit African-American churches on a near weekly basis.
And none of them are concerned about race.
You know what? You know what they're concerned about? They're concerned about. Let me tell you what they told me they're concerned about. They want this good economy to continue going. They want the economy to continue to grow. They want to make sure that their kids are in good schools. They want to make sure that their kids have jobs after they're out of school.
And they
want
the kids to have equal opportunity to get those jobs. They want their kids to have equal opportunity to get those jobs. They want to have equal opportunity in the jails, in the criminal justice system, in anything. I mean, come on.
Is there anything that your black constituents or potential black constituents want that your white constituents don't need?
No. Look,
nothing?
It's all the same thing.
Nothing? No issues around police brutality? No issues around criminal justice? No issues around economics? There's no difference from what the black and white constituents need?
Let me tell you something. I've been listening to my constituents for a long, long time, and I'll tell you, whether they're white or black or Hispanic or Asian, they respect our police. They don't believe all this liberal line about, that the police are the enemy. They respect our police, and our police have a very good relationship with the entire community, including the minority communities.
Well, no,
in my
nobody
community
doesn't respect police. We disrespect police that break the law, and we disrespect police that are brutal. But let me ask you something. You're running statewide in Virginia, and I know a lot of the Virginia black leadership. The former mayor of Richmond, Virginia, Dwight Jones, is on the board of my civil rights organization. Name me the black leaders in Virginia, since you have such a great record in your county. Name me the black leaders that are supporting you for the Senate.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not going to go out there and name some individuals that, but I can tell you that there's a lot of people behind me, and I'm not going to, I haven't gotten the permission to drop their names.
You talked about all of these people you talked to. Name me 3 black leaders. Name me one that's supporting you. Since you have this great record, since you have this great record, it would seem to me that since you had this great record and blacks, you say, have voted for you over and over again, that there has to be some black leadership in Virginia that knows about your great record and they're supporting you for the Senate. Name them. You're on national television.
All right. Here's the thing, Reverend. I think you're stuck back in the 1960s.
No.
When,
I'm
maybe,
on your election this year. We're not talking about the 1960 Virginia race. We're talking about right now. In 2018, Corey Stewart is running. He is said on national TV. He's been voted on several times by blacks in this county. And I'm asking him for the third time to name me one black leader in Virginia that's supporting you for the Senate, because I'm sure if you had that record, there'd have to be at least one that says send this man to the Senate. He will fight for everybody equally. Name him.
You know, I don't think like you do. You think top down. You think that if,
I'm
you
not
know,
thinking
if you
top
secure
down.
the leadership
Give me
of
a
some
bottom
political
up black
figure.
leader. Give me a bottom up black leader. Give me a bottom up black leader.
You're so obsessed with race, Reverend. It's unbelievable.
How's that
I'm telling you,
obsessed
the
with
country
race?
has
I'm
moved
giving
on.
you a chance
You're
to
stuck
tell.
in a different
You see,
time
Torrey,
when everything was about
what
race.
they can't do, if
People
you
have moved
ask
on
him
since
about policy, if you ask them to put a face on what they represent, they can't. Then we're obsessed with race.
Yeah.
He's the one that said the blacks in his county love him. He's the one that said all that. So I'm saying name him. Give me a name of a leader.
I understand your pain, Reverend. It's a very difficult interview. He's unable to answer any of the questions. Later, we can ask him if the Civil War was fought over slavery. That will be a very entertaining
he and I fought about that, about he wants to maintain the statues and all. We already been there. But let me get back to President Trump. Let me get back to President Trump.
For somebody who's my age, you got to know that the country's moved on. People don't look at race anymore like that. I mean, we have mixed communities today, mixed families. People don't look at each other based upon their race first anymore. We've moved on. America's benefited. America's better today than it was back in the 1960s because of it.
I wish that the nation had moved on. I wish that it would be just that easy to say that bias is gone, but it's simply not. It is deeply ingrained in all of us. And as a nation, we continue to see black and brown people as worth less. That's why we have a national organization that's called Black Lives Matter, because that essential phrase just needs to be said. And we have a president who is openly racist, and the David Dukes and the Richard Spencers of the world support and celebrate and worship him. I mean, we have a significantly deep problem in this country, and I understand that as a straight white man, you think we've moved on because it's not a problem in my life, but it is a problem in the lives of millions of black and brown Americans.
Let me say this. I think that America...
So, Torrey, you look at me...
I think that we've got to be very careful here. America, Corey, has made a lot of progress. No doubt about it. But it has a long way to go. And we made the progress because we did deal with race, not avoided race. And for you
we're making progress right now.
We're making progress right now. I've asked you to show me where the progress is if we are still doubly unemployed. I asked you to show me where the progress is if we still have an unequal criminal justice system. I asked you to name me a black leader in your state supporting me. And just like Kelly Ann Conway couldn't name the black in the Trump administration, you can't name a black leader. So we've made progress.
Well, you see everything through the lens of race. I don't. That's the difference.
I asked you based on what you said.
But your colorblindness is not progress.
I gave you the opportunity to just shut me down, and you bolstered my argument. That's why I love to have you on. Torrey will be back with us later in the show.
I love to be on your show, Reverend.
Thank you, Corey. I know you.
I know you're a good man at heart.
I'm a good man at heart and in action, and I know you think it jacks up your whole, embellishes your base that you go on and rumble with me, but you never thought I was going to really ask you to look beyond the vase and let's see if the wizard really has any clothes back there. And you couldn't come out with your cape on, Corey. I'm going to give you another chance.
Where are we? We're mixing metaphors like crazy, Rev.
Coming up.
The revolution